Hi, it's Siobhan at Bo Books. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. This is a channel, I always forget to say this, where I mainly talk about book reviews, but I might also talk about other bookish things. Also, as you can see by my bookshelves, I'm into quite a few fandoms, so they might come up. They haven't yet, but that doesn't mean they won't. So yeah, that's mainly what I do. Mostly it's young adult contemporary, but there are other stories I read, so I will probably go into those as well at some point. It just depends what I've been reading, what I've been doing, stuff like that. I'm also a writer, so I think my last video was talking about my writing story ideas I've got. I don't know if I went into the processes or not actually. Yeah, it's kind of a long video, but hopefully there's something in there if you're looking into getting into writing. There was a resource I talked about, Ready Set Novel, which I should talk about in another video as well, which is really good. But that is not today's story. Today I'm talking about Black Flamingo by Atta, which I read a little while ago now, so I'm a little bit hazy on what it is. But I've said previously I really love Sarah Crosson's stories, and she usually writes in free verse, and Black Flamingo is also free verse. So, and actually I did notice at the end in his acknowledgements, because I do sometimes read those, he does mention Sarah Crosson. Teach me how to do that. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I said before in my book haul video where I talked about this that I really like the formatting, because it's all like, it's not all just black and white, it's like blackout pages, there's illustrations, text talk and stuff like that, so that's really interesting. The overall story I wasn't sure about from reading the back cover. I wasn't sure if this was a drag act or if this was a person coming to terms with the fact they were trans and their story going into that. It is a drag queen story, which, you know, I thought was really interesting. RuPaul is a big thing. I've got some friends who are drag kings. I say some, I think there's only one, Laurie, who I haven't talked to for a little while. We need to sort that out. Anyway, aside there. So yeah, so this is a free verse book about a boy who, you know, he's coming to terms with his own sexuality, and like it's kind of from a very young age, leading up to when he goes to university. So it covers a lot of material. But I think it kind of tries to stay on point. So the free verse helps, because then it's like cutaway scene, cutaway scene, cutaway scene, building up to the story. But yeah, it's interesting how he gets into the drag scene, and it all leads up to his first big show as the Black Flamingo. So there's like a really interesting poem in here about black flamingos, and how, you know, they stand out from the crowd. They're completely natural, but they're not what's expected, because most flamingos turn pink from the food they eat. So seeing a black flamingo is quite unusual. I think it's talking about how, you know, you can stand out from the crowd while being completely yourself. And I think that kind of resonates, especially when you're a teenager and you're growing up. So the main character's best friend is a girl. They made friends quite early on. They kind of squabbled a lot, but then, you know, they started to get along. And I'm sorry, I keep flashing like gold, and it keeps like reflecting back at me. Anyway, so yeah, that friend is she's kind of argumentative about his sexuality, and I think at one point he wants to go to a gay bar, and she's like, no, I don't want that, I don't want to be Hilton. And then like later on she comes out as being lesbian as well, and I think that's kind of an interesting storyline to include in here, because, you know, what is like, there is no one size fits all for any kind of sexuality, which I've talked about previously as well. And it's interesting that he's like, you're being homophobic, and then that leads to her realizing that she is actually a lesbian. And, you know, sometimes the biggest homophobes are the ones who just haven't worked their way out of the closet yet. Yeah, I don't like the phrasing "come out of the closet," but you know, this is I think it's an autobiographical book, because right at the back it's a picture of the author, but he's dressed up like the Black Flamingo. That's all his credentials. But I thought it was really interesting to have like a person of colour. He actually talks about like the main character is actually interracial. I never know if that's the right term to use. Like, if anyone wants to comment below what is the appropriate term so I'm not offensive, that would be really like appreciated. I don't want to offend anyone. But yeah, it's an interesting to have. Oh, I just had the page up actually where he talked about his genealogy. Now I've lost it. Oh, there we go. So he's Cypriotic black, and then there's like this whole thing from his mum about you are not half of anything, which kind of I think misses the point. Like when you talk about being half of one thing, half of another, you're not saying I'm only half a person. You're saying this has helped influence who I am, and this has helped influence who I am, but neither of those is overall defining of who I am. So yeah, pinch of salt with some of this stuff. I think it's very one-sided, I guess, in the approach that it goes for in terms of the main character, because obviously like there is the other perspectives of the other characters. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I just stumbled on something. This is actually really cool. So it's part of his drag act. He lists every single person of colour or gay person or just like anyone who stands out who could be an amazing influence, especially in the entertainment industry. So, you know, RuPaul is definitely mentioned. But yeah, like there are names I recognise, like Stephen Amos I've recognised. I don't know where he's gone now. Oh, there, Stephen K. Amos. Names I've never even heard of, and like I kind of got to this page and I was like, I want to research everyone. I haven't yet, but that's on my to-do list. Yeah, so it's an interesting take. I think this is going to be such a short video. I'm so sorry, but I just don't know what else to include about it. It was an interesting read. It probably wasn't one of my favourite stories. And that's not because of the free verse or the subject matter. I just think I wanted a little bit more, and I'm not sure what it was. I don't know if it's because the length of time it covers kind of, it didn't give enough grit and enough like I knew what the people were about so much. And especially as like he goes to university quite late in the book. And you then get introduced to so many people, and it's oh, I'm nearly sorry. Yeah, that's when he goes to university. So that's about halfway through the book, and then this half you get introduced to so many characters, and they've all got their own thing going on, and there's just no depth to their stories or how they relate to the main character Michael. And I think I really wanted a little bit more. So I think it's hard when it's free verse as well to develop that. And I know Sarah Crossan does an amazing job. And I see what Dean Atta's been trying to do, and I really appreciate his efforts. But I think, you know, just maybe like the earlier half could have been more like retrospective poems, which is another thing that comes in actually, because although it is free verse, sorry, I'm trying to find examples for everything. It's things like in the middle of it, he'll include poems he writes at school, and like that's great. But then, because it's all free verse in the first place, sometimes it's jarring to come out of the story, or sometimes the poems repeat what's already been done in the free verse, and it gets really distracting and really hard to like separate the two or know when one's finished and when one starts. And the only real guide you have is things like the formatting. So I guess that's why we had all the different formatting, or, you know, oh, Sarah Crossan titles all had different ones, but these are all like, they'll just go until they stop, and then there's a different format, and then that's how you know it's a different one. And yeah, so I found that a little bit jarring. So I think it's just like editorial tweaks I would have made more. Which would give me like more enjoyment out of the story, but that's not to say it wasn't a good story. It's just that, you know, I just needed a little bit more. But I would recommend, because you know it's always good to have like BAME authors, especially when you are like me, a basic white girl. And I admit I am a basic white girl. Like pumpkin spice season is back on, and I'm so excited. People who know me have seen me already commenting about my first pumpkin spice latte being disappointing because they burnt it. But yeah, so having a perspective that is completely different to mine is really good for my own personal growth, and also to get that voice out there. So yeah, I can't fault that. Yeah, so I would recommend it, but you know, maybe don't be as analytical as me when you do read it. So yeah, and that's all I've got to say about this one. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment below if you did or you didn't. I'd be interested in your perspective. Or if you've got any other recommendations about BAME or POC, like LGBT books, that would be really cool. Because I don't think I've got many. I think oh, I think I've got a Mallory Blackman story called Boys Don't Cry, but that wasn't LGBT, and she was a woman right now. I'm sure I've got another one, but I haven't got many, so I'd really be interested in reading more. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave it here. I guess I'll see you next time. Bye.